Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi there. Welcome to New Life Live. So glad you're with us here today. And joining me, I'm glad they're here, and before the program's over, you will be too, is Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris and Becky Brown. Becky is actually new life, more new life than me, I've told people before, and Jacqui Mack-Harris is becoming new life every time we're together. Welcome, guys. How are you today? What's going on with you?
Hi, Steve.
Anything?
Hi, Jacqui. We're doing well.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Becky. Doing good.
Well, I want to mention a resource that we have available to people, and it's a video collection that we've done over the years. And, well, there's one that you did, Becky, and
Yes.
it's entitled The Story You Tell Yourself. And I'm just wondering what that video is about, and there are a lot of people that might want to access that video and see what you have to say.
Well, you know, Steve, you have told me over the years there is a story and then there's the story, right?
Right.
And a lot of times in our head, we have narratives about the way things are that are not the real story. It's not the
Correct.
truth.
Yeah.
And then we will live out our whole life based on that. And I just think, I joke a lot about the rapper Ice Cube who sings "Check Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself." And a lot of times in
Good
our
advice.
narratives, we think that we know the truth and we live by a false narrative, a false story. And so we just got to ask ourselves, what are the stories that we're living by? So that's basically what it's about.
What a great question. What are the stories, the narratives that you're living by? And a lot of times our story about ourselves is not the story that people see, and it's not the story,
Right.
like you're saying. And boy, it sure is great. Sometimes you get in with a great counselor or coach, and they help you clarify what is
Right.
real, what are those beliefs and things that if you would give them up, life could be very different. What do you think about that, Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris?
Well, I work with a lot of couples, and oftentimes the story one is telling themselves doesn't match the story the other is telling themselves, and that impacts their communication because they're both living according to the story that they're telling, and that may not be the accurate story. That might not be what's really happening. And so I agree, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yes,
And
Jacqui, I
and you
love
know,
it.
there is there's so much value to doing a little research on what you believe. Ask a brother, sister, cousin, father, mother, somebody, hey, here's what I'm feeling. Is that true? Did that happen? Here's what I'm struggling with. Do you think that's reasonable, or did I overreact, or did it even present itself? And sometimes you discover that the truth that you have isn't the truth at all. It might have come from an unreliable source. I'm just telling you, if you're struggling, find out the source. Discover the source, and guess what you can do? You can deal with that source, not the symptom, but the source. Life becomes very, very enjoyable when you do. We'll take a break, and we'll come right back with phone calls. And I think I'm just going to have to go over here and talk with James first, and then we'll go to Dana, and we could go to you too. So call us whenever you're ready, 1-800-229-3000. If you need help at any point, we've got counselors, we've got these wonderful folks on the phone that'll find you a counselor or a book, a resource, a workshop. You just have to call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll be right back.
Our marriage was just so toxic, and just so many simple interactions that turned into conflict. And so we signed up to participate in the workshop.
This is Steve Arterburn. Our Intimacy in Marriage workshop examines the various types of intimacy, spiritual, emotional, and physical, as well as the challenges of experiencing true intimacy.
The tools that we received from the Intimacy in Marriage workshop were tremendous. It was so much that we were able to take and utilize and actually come back and apply.
Don't settle for a miserable marriage or even one that's just okay. It's possible to have that great marriage you always want.
The next Intimacy in Marriage workshop is October 20th to the 23rd in Dallas, Texas. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE to find out more, or go to newlife.com. 1-800-639-5433.
Best decision we could have ever made. There's no price that we can put on having healthy marriages.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here with Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris and Becky Brown. At the break, Becky, you brought up a story you heard me tell. It really drives home the point of the story you have might not be the story.
Exactly. Well, years ago, Steve, you told the story about a man who was he was unwilling to connect with his mother because she had abandoned him as an infant.
Yeah.
And you had asked him, you said, well, did you ever talk to her about why she did that or what the circumstance? No, I'm not ever going to talk to her again. You encouraged him to find out what the story was. Well, then when he talked to his mother, he discovered that her mother, who had a terrible mental illness, had abandoned her to keep her safe. And when he was born, his own mother feared that she would be doing the same thing. So she gave him to a protective person. And that was the true story. And they reconnected and were able to have a relationship before his mother died.
And what a change in him to discover that the person he hated was actually his hero, who possibly saved his life. She was doing the best that she could do. By the way, I wrote a novel called The Encounter based on 2 true stories, and that was one of the true stories that's woven into this novel. And somebody texted me the other day and said, I just read The Encounter. Where has that been all my life? Because it's a healing kind of novel. All right, let's go to the phones. We're going to talk with James, Butte, Montana. Love Montana. Oh, my goodness. I'd like to be there right now. Sirius XM satellite radio is where you listen. James, how could we help you? What's going on?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I deal with some pretty severe anxiety, and I gave myself to Jesus, I don't know, close to a year ago, and since then I've had some struggles. I have a checkered past. I wasn't faithful. I have children out of wedlock, and I'm just struggling with forgiving myself. I believe that Jesus is the way into heaven through God, and I know they forgive, but I know Jesus died for our forgiveness, but I'm struggling with it, and I just need some help how to deal with that and how to deal with the anxiety, because my anxiety is debilitating.
Yeah. Oh, that's rough. I am wondering if you've ever asked yourself, what is the benefit of not forgiving yourself?
I don't think there is. I guess I'm just scared that I was, I guess I'm just scared that I'm not forgiven. I don't know. I want to believe. I want to have the closest relationship with Christ. I want to be as close to like Him as I possibly can. But I live a good life now, but I just struggle with it.
Yeah. But for some reason, you're not acting on what you believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if there is something you're afraid of, anxious. You said you're anxious about, and kind of hanging on to the guilt and shame keeps you safe. because it kind of locks you down a little bit as a possibility. Let me turn it over first to you, Becky, and then Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris. What do you guys think?
I think that whenever anxiety is present, we have to get to the core of it. And sometimes we will swirl around what we think it is, going back to what we were just talking about, and convince ourselves that that's where it lands, when it actually could be something physical. It could be a imbalance of chemicals, hormones, all those kind of things, could be related to another situation that we're really not focused on. And instead we're focused on this other thing that keeps us from dealing with the true thing. And so, James, what I would say ultimately, if you haven't already, I would suggest working with a therapist to get to understand not only just this question, and I love that question, Steve, what's the benefit of not forgiving yourself? And we think, well, there's no benefit. I feel terrible. I can't get over this. But what is it keeping you from doing? And so I think a therapist can help in that process. And then also learning to live without that anxiety or without worrying about that not being forgiven can also feel very awkward until we get used to that freedom of not having that hang over our heads.
Very good.
I am forgiven, right?
You are forgiven.
You absolutely are.
If you've accepted Christ, he's already paid the penalty for your sins. You're forgiven. Right. But sometimes I think people get stuck in holding themselves accountable for their past mistakes out of fear of repeating the mistakes. If I keep this front and center, I'm thinking about it, I'm remembering, that's going to stop me from doing the bad thing again. And maybe having some more support could help you come up with some better coping tools, because what you're using to cope now is remembering the bad and continuing to kind of like wash yourself in that instead of washing yourself in the blood of Jesus, right? You are forgiven. You are forgiven. That's done. But you still have work to do. Find a group that could support you and you could meet with regularly so that you're practicing some new behaviors and some new ways of thinking. And a good Christian counselor could help you with that. Life recovery group could help you with that. And just continuing to ask God to help you live in and walk in the forgiveness that he's given you.
James, are you doing anything to in the recovery process, something that would help?
I read the Bible.
Yeah.
I try to read the Bible every day. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I go to church. Obviously, that makes me feel better always. I get closer,
Okay.
And then I do see a doctor. We're trying to figure out a good maybe medication to help with it as well.
Okay, so you're like a lot of us men. It's very difficult to have men, friends in our lives, and you didn't mention that, but boy, that would be so helpful, because you would discover that other men feel the same way, deal with it. I go to a recovery group on Saturdays, really helpful. When I started going, really hated it, but eventually you come to love it. So I'm going to recommend that for you, and I'm going to send you a Life Recovery Bible with its workbook. And I think if you could just find one other person to do that workbook with, or just find a recovery group, Sex Addicts Anonymous, if you were unfaithful, Sex Addicts Anonymous. Yeah, hold on. Let us see what we can do for you and connect you with something helpful. But a Life Recovery group, you can have anything in a Life Recovery group. And we'll try to we've got 500 groups around the country. We'll try to find one for you, and they're virtual groups. It's always good. I'm glad you called. Thank you for calling. Anybody needs help, need resources, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now let's go and I said I would go to Dana after this, and so I feel really bad that I clicked another thing, but I'm going to go to Dana. Here is Dana. How are you? And I'm really glad you called. How can we help you here?
I had lost a daughter at 6 months old.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
how did she die?
Sudden death is what the hospital recorded as.
Oh, boy. So sorry.
And Well, and so me and the wife were separated for a long time. The child reminded her of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually ran into the store to get a charger because I was on the highway and I thought I was next. So we might get cut off here because
Okay.
the charger's not working.
So ask us the question, and then you can hear a recording of the program if you can't hang on. What's the question for? Well, is there more to the problem? What in addition to the 6-month-old? What else?
Well, so we were separated for 6 years. And during our separation, it's not working.
Oh, you said type C. You have an iPhone.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
18.
Dana? Okay. Well, I think we might have lost him for good there, but maybe he'll come back.
Hello?
Yeah. Dana, what else can you tell us real quick?
Oh yeah. So what I was saying is that the problem was we were separated for 6 years, and just like Ryan, I had a child out of wedlock.
Okay.
And after that, and I'm trying to see my grandkids, but I didn't step back into her life until she was 13.
Oh, okay. So
I stayed.
What's the question for us that we're going to deal with here?
So I'm trying to connect with my grandchildren, but because of the way that she was conceived, I'm not having any luck doing that.
Okay. So what is the question for us, Dana?
So I'm asking, I was going to go grandparents' rights in this state and try to fight for grandparents' rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering.
Well, wait, Dana, let me ask you a question about this. Was she conceived as a result of an unwanted sexual connection? Like, did you rape her mother, or like what was the disc? Oh, okay. And what has the mom said regarding the unwillingness to connect you with the daughter?
So unfortunately, her mother had passed on at 46. This was 35 years ago.
Okay.
So Dana, you were married. Your one of your children died of sudden infant death. You and your wife were separated due to the difficulties and trauma of that. During the separation, you had an affair, got someone else pregnant. There was a child that came out of that you didn't connect with till they were about 13. That child now has children, and you want a relationship with those children, and she's saying no.
Yes. My daughter's saying no.
Okay. So you don't clearly, it sounds like you don't have a good relationship with that daughter. Have you done work?
I just met her grandparents at the funeral. You know, it wasn't around her a lot.
Okay. So you're a stranger to her.
3 years at a fling, but that was about it.
You're a stranger to her.
Yes.
So it's hard for her to want to have her children get to know someone she doesn't know.
Yeah.
Well, she did live with me. I mean, I started an account for her from 15 to 18, and I bought her 2 cars. But she's just, I can't make up those years.
Right.
Okay, so I'm curious. Do you think it's unreasonable that this daughter has some difficulty and struggle in being with you?
No, I know there's some flashbacks. There's we grew up in the same city versus the rest of my kids, and I just don't think we should hate each other.
No, well, but there's a big difference between what you're talking about and what she's talking about. And Dana, just like you're trying to find a good cord to plug your phone into, this is how you go about sometimes with relationships as well, that you have to start with connecting with her as an adult. The grandchildren are further down the line, and I can guarantee if you call a law issue in as far as grandparents' rights, you will not be able to connect with not only your daughter or her children. So let's take it one step at a time, find a way to get to know each other in this stage of your life,
Right.
and to move forward in that direction.
We don't want you to make it worse. And so I would be on a 6-month campaign to win the heart of my daughter. And maybe that starts with a little note in the mailbox that would say, what was it like being with me those 3 years? And what was it like not being with me the rest? Because I am really looking at my life in a different way now. And I so regret all of that. Could you help me understand how you felt? Because I really do want to know. That could be the beginning of a whole new relationship with her. I would hope so. You're listening to New Life Live. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. If you need help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here with Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris, wonderful clinician, and Becky Brown, who is she's heads up our ministry part of New Life and does such a fantastic job. And we're here for you. If you need other help, you can get it directly, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. So let's go and now talk to, how about Phoebe from Phoenix, Arizona. Phoebe from Phoenix, my kind of deal, alliteration. Hi, Phoebe. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome. What's going on in your life? How can we help?
I'm calling specifically about a blended family situation. I recently married a man that was a widower, and he has children. I don't have children. So the children, the younger children, are with us. There's 3, and their ages are 15, 19, and 21.
Okay.
He is a Christian, and I am as well. And we have a lot of things in common, and we work well together, and we've been working out, a lot of other differences in terms of our relationship. But when it comes to issues around child rearing and that topic, it's a little difficult to have conversations about it. And we obviously have different styles, I believe.
Well, tell me about a difference, how she would handle something versus how you would have handled it.
So, for example, just with chores around the house in general. So I'm not really one that, for kids this age, that micromanages chores. There's things that you need to accomplish. There's a time frame you need to do them in. Like if it's weekly chores, it doesn't bother me if you pick Mondays, Wednesdays, it doesn't matter to me. My husband, however, there's lots of times when it's very obvious that the chores are not getting done. And the kids are constantly coming, can I use the car? Can I go to the movies? Can I be with my friends? Can I have a sleepover? And so all these questions and things that they want done are being granted, and their chores aren't necessarily getting done.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay,
well, I have a question. Phoebe, when did their mother die?
She's been deceased for 9 years, so they were young when she passed.
And then was Dad the only one in their life after she died as far as parenting?
I would have to say so. They did all move in with his mother, and so she was partially,
right,
helping with that. But, she's the grandmother. She was the grandmother. So they eventually did move back to the house that they were living in after maybe 2 years, is what I'm told. So they spent some time with the grandmother and Dad, and then solely with Dad prior to me meeting him.
And then one more question was Mom's death instant or a long-term illness?
She had brain cancer, so it was over a period of time.
Okay. I just ask because we're not talking just specifically about a new way of parenting. We're talking about kids who lost their mother. And if she was sick for a long period of time, that also impacts the way that they develop. And then, when you first said that the ages of these kids, I was like, oh, God bless you, Phoebe, because it's really a transitional time, no matter what their background is. So, it is going to be a meeting of the minds for you and your husband to decide, how this is going to work. Steve, you can speak into this, exactly, but the 19 and the 21-year-old should be on their way out. Given all the resources that they have, but it's really a bigger conversation, but not just with your husband, but also with the older kids. What are your plans? How do you want to help with the household? And not from a demeaning standpoint, but from an empowering standpoint.
Yeah, I'll just jump back in and say the worst thing would be that if they're living at home, that they didn't have any chores,
Right.
because then they're not doing their part. But that they have chores and they're given the freedom when to do them. One of the things that's so hard for me as a parent, and I'm in a blended family, is to care about something, know the standard that you would have, and then to let that go. But not into promiscuous parenting or acquiescing parenting, but it's just not that big a deal. If they weren't given any chores, big deal. I would say, well, don't let that go, because now you're going to create irresponsible kids and adults. But maybe some of the things that bother you, it might be good to evaluate them and decide, given their ages, could I let that go and just go with the flow with Dad rather than create a conflict? It's really tough because I don't want you to give up on very, very important issues. Now, I want you to hold on. We'll give you some more here. We'll talk about it at the break, and Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris will help us when we come back. You're listening to New Life Live, And we have so many things to offer you. Restore is coming up November the 3rd through the 5th in Washington, D.C. What a blessing that could be if you've been hurt.
My girlfriends and I have been searching for so long to try to find an event to attend.
Lumina is a new women's conference designed to inspire your faith so you can lead and live confidently from God's Word.
It was nice to come here and just realign myself with who God says He is in my life.
The Lumina Conference is a 2-day experience. 1 full day of worship and teaching in Museum of the Bible's World Stage Theater, and a half-day guided tour through Museum of the Bible.
You are literally immersed in the Word of God. You can walk through the Old Testament. You can walk through the New Testament.
Lumina is for women of all generations, cultures, and denominations. It's a great place to gather with women from your church and community.
If you want some fellowship and you want to be strengthened, this is the place you want to be.
This year's Lumina Conference is October 27th and 28th in Washington, D.C.
It was absolutely life-changing.
For more information, go to luminawomen.org.
I have given to New Life regularly because I have so many people that I am referring to New Life who so benefit from the ministry. I just can't imagine what would happen in my area if New Life wasn't available to us.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Prayer, 100 Days of Freedom from Depression, and 100 Days of Peace. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. We're talking with Phoebe from Phoenix, and we're talking about child-raising differences there. Dr. Harris, what are you thinking here?
Well, Phoebe, I was thinking that taking a step back and reevaluating expectations, as Steve said, would be a really good idea. So we have a 15-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 21-year-old who we might think of as, they're older teens, they are older adolescents, they should be launching soon, but they are also kids who lived in the grief of losing their mother for 9 years, and however long she was battling brain cancer. So they didn't get the typical upbringing, and then they moved in with grandma, so a lot of the chores someone else was doing for them. They haven't been conditioned that this is the norm, and so the expectation isn't unreasonable, but you have to take a look at who it is you're having the expectation of. And I'm wondering if we were to take a step back and say, you know what, yes, this needs to be done and that needs to be done, but it's not worth fighting over. What would then happen? Are you then left with a messy house? Because who's left to clean up? Who's expected to do the household things if the kids aren't doing them? So maybe having a conversation with your husband about that. How do we take care of the household things? The kids aren't necessarily up for doing their chores. Are you wanting to hire someone to pick up behind them? So negotiate with him, get an understanding of where he's coming from without the criticism piece. Just, hey, let's set some intentions. What is our plan for how we want our home to run?
Now, I like that part about trying to do it without the criticism. Becky, what else were you wanting to say here that could help Phoebe? Because I bet it's a pain every day when somebody's doing the exact opposite of what you want to do.
Well, Phoebe, we were talking about the fact that if you were living alone up until the time that you and your husband got married, this is a big change. And I'm not sure, what did you say? You've been married for how long?
2.5 years.
Okay. And so how does this feel to you when you go to your husband to talk about this disruption?
Well, initially it was difficult to have any conversation about it because he was still in that space, I think, where he was trying to impress me, and his conversations are more geared towards showing me, hey, look how great the kids are. They're doing this, they're doing that. So it was like he was trying to impress me, but I'm already in that space. Like, these are kids we have to raise, and we have to prepare for the future, and they need to be productive citizens. And I already made, a covenant when we got married to raise them in the admonition of the Lord. And so those are the guidelines that I'm going according to.
And so, but Phoebe, is your husband on that same page? Or when you talk to him about that, what is his response to that?
For the most part, it is defending what they're doing.
Right.
When you talk about the kids, Phoebe, do you talk about the good things that you notice about them? Does he feel like all you bring him is the negative?
He may respond differently. I don't feel that way because in the moment I'll tell them, what a great job they did with something. The older one in particular, I make sure to say in front of everybody, including the girls. The two younger ones are girls. And the older one seems to have been the quote-unquote target in the family. Like they would always blame things on him and say how he's, not doing his share and things like that. So I made it a point to point out, wow, I'm really impressed. This is what you were able to accomplish. You did this, and you must really feel good about yourself right now because, you're finished with high school. You went through a whole program. Now you have your certification and you're working. You just recently got a car. You've come a long way. And I give him accolades. He has a lot of Christian friends. He does a lot of things with them. I told him, I can see how God is really working in your life. And you're reaping the benefits right now just in the time that I've known you. So I'm excited for you, and I'm excited about what God is doing for you.
Well, let me just say this. Most blended families break up. The divorce rate, 70%. And they often break up over issues like this. I cannot encourage you more for you and your husband to get into some counseling and this issue be helped by a third party, because little things, or things that seem little, get really big in a blended family, especially when all of the kids are his kids, you don't have kids. Really tough. So I'm going to recommend that would be your next step. And I'm going to send you How We Love, which will give you a framework for how kids get raised and attached, and how you did and how your husband did. And I think and hope and pray it could change everything for you. Anybody else? A lot of resources at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. One of the best resources is Larry Sonnenberg, who's in the studio today. And Larry, what do you have for us?
Steve, I'm always interested to know how people come to find new life and to experience what they do through new life. Here's a card the lady sent to us. What brought me to new life was your book, The God of Second Chances. I was struggling with the awful realization that I had murdered my own child through an abortion. I was filled with guilt, shame, regret, despair at what I had done. I read your story, which gave me a ray of hope, that there was a God of mercy and love and forgiveness who provided an answer to my heartache. I'm not sure how I found New Life on the radio, but I began listening. The fusion of psychology and biblical principles helped me on my journey of realizing and reconciliation with the God of heaven and earth through his Son, Jesus. My journey took many years with a number of different people and ministries helping me. Again, New Life, through the book Healing is a Choice, as well as the workshop which I attended, was another instrumental resource. Thank you for showing me there was a way of lasting transformation.
Okay, could I have that? I'd like to frame that. Actually, I'd like to blow it up. That is why we are here. And to hear someone say it so eloquently in a letter like that, oh, I am so grateful for that. And I would just say this, of course, if you support us, that's what you support.
Amen.
Right there. And these books that are produced and stuff, they touch people, we get connected, transformation occurs. Anything else you want to say, Larry?
No, just thanks for writing books, Steve. It touches hearts, it changes people's lives, and it directs them to the God of mercy and grace. So thank you.
Well, I get a lot of help doing that. And anybody that needs some help, I think Healing is a Choice. It's one of those books that can kind of get you thinking in a way on a path that does restore. And if we can help you, we want to. We've got Restore coming up, Every Man's Battle, Intimacy in Marriage. So many things are available to transform your life. And you can find out about it at newlife.com, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And we cannot do this without support. So please consider supporting this ministry if you never have. And if you're a regular giver, please continue to be regular, because we really do need your help in the midst of the summer slump that we budget for and always have. But it's a little tough this year. 1-800-NEW-LIFE, newlife.com. If you give a gift of any amount, we'll send you Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World. Great book. Dr. Alice Benton wrote it with me, and it is wonderful. Thank you, Larry.
Okay.
And let's go to a caller here. How about we go to Barbara? Sherman, Texas, Sirius XM is where she hears us. Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Well, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm having a hard time forgiving my brother. A couple of years ago, my husband died of COVID. And since then, my brother has said to me that I do not deserve his sympathy. And that piled on top of the grief of my husband dying is just too much for me. I don't know what to do with it. And I've read books in the last 2 years on forgiveness. I've listened to many radio shows about it and sermons, and I got to the place where I could pray his name, and I wrote that I forgave him in my Bible, but it continues to come up, and I wonder if I really have. And some of the sermons say that I can't even be saved unless I do, so it's making me doubt my salvation, and I don't know what the answer is.
All right. Well, we're going to help you with that. Right after this break, you hear the music. We'll be back right after this, but if you need help, 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for over 34 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for your life and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly.
and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow. Call 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here. And Barbara, we talked about this at the break. And Becky, why don't you tell her what we, and you especially, were saying and thinking?
So, Barbara, forgiveness is one big decision followed by a lot of little decisions. So you have forgiven him. You decided that you forgave him. But when those feelings start cropping back up, wondering if you really did, you just have to remind yourself, yes, I did. The complication is that you're feeling hurt because not only the loss, but you cannot believe that your brother would not help you in this grieving time. And I imagine that the brother probably is not dealing with his own grief, and it's just easier for him not to extend sympathy to you or support to you so they didn't have to touch his own grief. Now, that doesn't make sense, but that's probably what is happening. And so for your own healing is continue to work through the grief. And, you know, a lot of times grief happens one big thing, like I just said about the forgiveness, but it gets wrapped into all the other grieving parts of our lives. And in this case, it's that relationship with your brother. But be open to the healing that you have forgiven him. Your salvation is not in jeopardy, and you need to move forward in that freedom.
Yeah, and I'll send you healing as a choice because it takes you through the whole process. First, the grief. Then I can accept. I grieve what I've lost. I can accept the reality I have. And now I'm more free to fully forgive the person that needs forgiveness. And I will give it to you, even though I did not pronounce the word forgiveness properly. Elisa, Chattanooga, Tennessee. You listen on the internet. Welcome to New Life Live. Glad you called.
Hi, Steve. I heard earlier, and correct me if I'm wrong, I caught the show right as you were ending that particular segment, but you said something about bitterness and unforgiveness. If you hold on to bitterness, if you don't forgive, that it could possibly cause cancer. And I was just trying to see how...
No, I didn't say that. I was using an analogy, and if you'd heard it correctly, you would hear me say a cancer to the soul was what I was talking about. Like cancer is so devastating to the body, bitterness, resentment is that way to your heart and to your soul. Now, the fact that I said something and you heard it a different way puts you in a classification of a lot of people hear me say things in the opposite way because I'm not a very good communicator sometimes. But I'm so glad you called and asked about it so I could clarify it. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for explaining that. I was just going to say, well, how is that implemented as truth for, babies sometimes that are born, with that type of disease? But yeah,
fortunately, we don't even have to answer that because, a lot of people put a guilt trip on people that have cancer saying, well, what was it that you did that caused and like they had some bad attitude one day and the cancer just jumped in there. And we don't want that. I hate that. So glad you clarified it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, let me just go a little bit further with the bitterness. Can you explain to me a little, I guess for me, more simplified, the bitterness? Is it that you say you forgive someone, then when you see them, you think of all the wrongness that they've done to you, and I'm just not really sure, and I think there are times I'm walking in bitterness.
Okay, I'll give you a brief answer, and then I'll turn it over to Becky and Jacqui. But if I am bitter, I say I forgive or I don't, but I hang on to it. And every time that person comes up to me or I think of them or whatever, I am uneasy. I am angry because I haven't really forgiven. Now that is different than I have gone through the forgiveness process. I've grieved the loss, whatever they took from me. I have accepted that I'm also that way in many ways, and now I can forgive. But maybe they threw something that was valuable off a bridge, and I only go by that bridge once every 3 months. And when I do, I have a twinge, and it kind of triggers me. That doesn't mean I didn't forgive. It means that there was a trigger there, and it reminds me to pray and ask God to forgive me and them. And so there's a big difference in being triggered, but then big difference from that than seething over something and wanting very bad things to happen to the person that hurt me. Becky, Jacqui, what do you think?
Jacqui, I'll let you go.
Well, I agree with Steve. I think bitterness, you are then making decisions and having thoughts about the person that are negative, and it's holding you back. You're stuck in this negative thought loop about the person. Someone brings them up, you get frustrated, you say mean, negative things about them, you remind people of what that person did to you, and even though you say, oh, I'm over it, I forgot, it's in the past, it continues to come up in the way that you treat them or the way that you talk about them to other people. I think that's the difference with bitterness from, like you said, Steve, you might be triggered because something is a reminder and you remember, ouch, that hurt, but then you're able to let it go and move right on past it, just with reminding yourself, you know what, I've forgiven that. Things happen, that's in the past. That's not bitterness. That is your nervous system doing what it does and reminding you of a possible danger. You get to tell your nervous system, oh, I'm not in danger here. That happened in the past. It's not happening right now.
And I'll close this up by saying, back to the physiological stuff, Dean Ornish, the health food guy that essentially got people eating stuff that tasted like hay, he said that the most healthy thing you could ever do in your lifetime is to forgive. And he said it just is over all of the good food you could eat, but forgiveness destroys, it opens people up to life, and bitterness is the thing that destroys it. And I'm really glad that
any recommended book that I can read further on about bitterness?
What about forgiving what you'll never forget?
Steve? Dr. Dave Stoops' book. We'll send you that. And I'll send you Healing is a Choice, which gives you that process to go through. I'm really glad she called to clarify. Mm-hmm. But, if I clarified everything that's misunderstood, we'd only do clarification calls most of the time.
Well, we could do a whole show like that.
Yeah, we could. Call with your clarification. All right. We're glad that you're listening, and we're glad that something that we say every now and then really does impact someone's life. I do believe that God uses this program to speak truth into the lives of folks, and I'm always grateful that we get to do that here. And if anything was not according to Scripture, we have people that would instantly write, text, email, and break down the door that we had veered from the truth. And we have been living out and teaching that truth for 35 years. It'll be 35 years in November. And the watch I'm hoping that they give me, well, anyway, forget that. But we're grateful to be in existence that long. We'd like to go another 35, and we need your help. Please consider supporting us. If you do, we'll send you Understanding and Loving Your Child in a Screen-Saturated World. Now, also, we did a webinar. 400 people had signed up. They want to be part of that webinar. And it's free if you go to newlife.com/webinar. And there you will see it. You can watch it, download it. It really was good. Dr. Alice Benton did a very, very good job. Just as Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris did here, and Becky Brown. Thank you, guys. And thanks to all of you who listen, watch, and pray for us. Call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or the website, newlife.com. Have a great day. We love you.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.